8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Good evening to everybody. This is Maidan Geopolitics from Italy. Today we will make a mixed session. Oggi faremo una sessione mista, un po' in inglese e un po' in italiano. The first part of the session will be in English. I will present a special guest that is from my city, from Brescia. She's Francesca Volpi, and she's an independent photographer who thought personal stories documents the humanitarian consequence of conflict, exploring how the context of war. What can we say? First, the first photographic reportage experience in South-Kivu region in the Republic Democratic of Congo. She has a big experience all over the world, but the most important thing is she's starting an expo in my city next Sunday. We will talk a little bit at the end in Italian. Ma rapidamente in italiano presentiamo una fotografa indipendente di Brescia, della mia città, che si chiama Francesca Volpi. Facciamo questa sessione perché domenica ci sarà l'inaugurazione. Vi invitiamo tutti al MOCA Brescia, che aprirà alle 11, corretto? Giusto?
Esatto.
L'inaugurazione poi mi sembra che poi gli orari saranno dalle
11 alle 7, sabato e domenica.
Dalle 11 alle 7 sabato e domenica. Poi
durante la settimana invece dalle 3 alle 7.
Perfetto, quindi se qualcuno avesse la possibilità di venire, visto che poi è iniziata anche la capitale della cultura, vi invito alla mostra domenica all'inaugurazione. Adesso rifacciamo la sessione in inglese per il pubblico, poi alla fine magari chiudiamo in italiano. So, I invited our guest to talk a little bit about her experience in Ukraine. She is having a long history of photography in the nation, also before February 24th. So if we can have a little bit of taste of the pictures that we can see in the expo, and a little bit of explanation of your experience in Ukraine. Be free to talk a little bit. We will make about 15-20 minutes of chatting. If anybody from the public want to make any type of question, just put in YouTube. And if anybody want to make a question for Francesca later, just put it in the comments and we will forward to her. Francesca, bye.
Thank you. So yes, I'm Francesca Volpi, and I'm a photographer, and I'm Italian, and I am from Brescia. And this weekend, yes, there is an exhibition about Ukraine and the war in Ukraine, but it's not just about the latest stages of the war, but also from 2014. Because I went to Ukraine in 2014 when I went to Kiev in January. So I was in Maidan in Kiev during the protests, and I stayed there until the 22nd, because on the 20th, as some of you maybe know, there was a shooting on the protesters in the square. So there was like about 100 people dead. And a couple of days later, I went to Crimea directly from Kiev, because I had a call from an editor from a French newspaper. And when they told me, okay, there is a reporter going to Crimea now because there is something going on, because in fact there were some Russian tanks coming into Crimea. And so it was the beginning of the real invasion. So I left Kiev and I went to Crimea. I stayed in Crimea 1 month. Then it became Russian territory, so I had to leave because I didn't have a visa. So, but during that month, I was there, so I could see a little bit of what was going on. So I was there during the referendum in Crimea, and so-called referendum that was won, and the referendum was about leaving Ukraine and becoming part of Russia. So 98% of the people that voted apparently voted for yes. So the Crimea became Russia at the end of March. Then I left and then I went straight to the east. So I went to Donbass. I was there in Kharkiv, and that's when I started my trip in Donbass, because I went to Kharkiv and I was always with a journalist. Sometimes it was a French journalist, sometimes a Belgian journalist, but I was always moving with journalists. And I went to Kharkiv, stayed in Kharkiv, and then I went to Donetsk, and I stayed in Donetsk. And then when I was there, I saw the beginning of the starting of the separatist movements. Then I was there during the referendum, and then the proclamation of the auto-proclamation of the independence of the two republics. And then at the end of May, I left and I came back to Italy. But that was like my first trip. It was like 3 months. I went to Kiev saying, okay, I'm going to stay a couple of weeks. Let's see how it goes. But eventually I stayed 3 months, because during those 3 months, February, March, and April and May, 4 months, a lot of things happened. So, and then I went back to Ukraine 2-3 times a year for like a month and a half per time, 2 months. And I was there until frequently until the Minsk II agreements in February 2015. And then after that, I kept going, but I was like not going that often. And then I stopped going to Ukraine in 2017 because many reasons. Also because, I mean, the interest in the media was not that high anymore, so I didn't have that many assignments. And also because in the East it was very difficult to access, actually. Even before the pandemic, it was very difficult for Western journalists or photographers to access the occupied territories in Ukraine, in Donbass. And so, yeah, I stopped in 2017 because I couldn't go anymore, but I wanted to go, but I always postponed. But the battles went on, of course, lower intensity, but the fighting went on. The Minsk II agreements were never really respected eventually. Yes, we saw the little green man. Yes, we saw the little green men were called the little green men back then, but now, and also since few years, we can say they were Russian militaries. But actually, honestly, there is some photos in the exhibition, but also in general photos that I took that, I mean, the tanks had clearly Russian flags on. So yes, but we couldn't say, nobody could say, oh, who's this man? But eventually, like, I have pictures of the people in the squares, in Lenin Square in Simferopol, with the Russian flags, waving Russian flags everywhere, kissing the Russian flag. But I also have photos of women on the street when these vehicles were passing by, that were crying, and they were there with holding signs that said no to the war in Crimea. So I have pictures of both situations. So, and those pictures will be in the exhibition, for example. And then like the exhibition is gonna be 57 pictures, and I really had to narrow down from tipo 300 because I have many. But yeah, coming to 2022, the day Russia invaded again. It was a Thursday, and me on Thursday night. I actually had a ticket to go to Kiev on a Sunday, but then Russia invaded on a Thursday, so I just took a flight to Budapest and then met some colleagues in Budapest, and we entered Ukraine the following morning via train. And so yeah, I was in Ukraine the next day, and I saw the cars leaving. There was like 40 kilometers queue of cars on the border with Hungary. So yeah, and then I went to Lviv, and then I went to Kiev, and then I went back to Chemnivtsi, and then I went to Odessa. And then I left after 1 month and a half, and I didn't go back because then my dad was not well, so I had to stay with him because eventually passed away in August. So I really had to stay with my dad. So I wanted to go back, but I couldn't. I will after the exhibition try to go back, probably in March. Let's see. But yeah, so in 2022 I was there only for 1 month and something, but I have to say that it was like very strange, very strange feeling at the beginning. Yeah, I'm talking as a foreigner, of course, but like even the people were in disbelief. Like the beginning was people were in disbelief really, because it was unbelievable what was going on, and nobody knew how far it would have gone immediately with the bombing. And so when I was in Kiev, it was crazy. I arrived in Kiev, and it was the curfew, and you couldn't go out until Monday morning at 8. So I arrived in Kiev with a train on Sunday, and I slept on Sunday night through Monday in the train station in Kiev, and there were people like sleeping there waiting to leave. And then I left the train station at 8 in the morning, and I went through Kiev. It was deserted. It was like probably like during the pandemic. I mean, it was completely empty, and I went back to Maidan, where my trip in Ukraine started 8 years ago, and it was incredible. There were no cars, and it was difficult to get food, and people were a lot of people left, but a lot of people were still in the city, and then it was very difficult. And there was like the air raid sirens, and the big threat of constant bombardment in the square in Kiev center. And but yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's really tough to deal with everything that is going on in Ukraine, especially after what happened in Dnipro 2 days ago. It's unbelievable. So it's been very strange also for me. I really couldn't believe it at the beginning. I really was among many that were like, okay, Russia's not gonna invade. They're probably gonna do some movements. They're gonna move in probably towards Mariupol, or they're gonna try to expand to take all of the Donetsk region and Lugansk region, but no, they went further, and situation became really bad. But yeah, with this exhibition, I think it's a chance. I hope to give a chance to people to see a little bit what was going on before, and also to remember that Russia didn't invade Ukraine in 2022. Russia invaded Ukraine in 2014, And so those years of war until the Minsk agreements caused about 15,000 dead. So it was not little. Of course, the level of of violence, it's much higher now, because of course the weapons have changed also, and the suffering is extreme and worse. But still a lot happened already before 2022. So it's a chance, I hope, for people to go and have a look a little bit to the history of what was there before. So, and I also had the chance to work in the area that now are difficult to access, very difficult to access, and it's difficult to work in, so the occupied areas.
This I posted only for the public one little memo of exhibition. I repeat, like for the not Italian viewer, I will repeat in Italian later. There is this expo. This year it's very important for my city and Bergamo, because it's near of the capital of the culture of Italy. So this year it's 2023. Bergamo and Brescia are united for this huge event, and this expo, it's a part of the events. So if you are a foreigner, because there is a huge group of foreigners also in Brescia, actually I would post it like to the group. There's an expat group of not Italians in Brescia or in Bergamo or whatever. Please come to this exhibition. Now Francesca will show a little bit of preview, and per gli italiani che vedono il filmato, vi ricordo di venire alla mostra assolutamente. Ci sarò anche io domenica, ma venite alle 11 al Moca, che è in centro, comodissimo. Il Moca è dentro l'ex tribunale in via Moretto, quindi è una struttura anche nuovissima, bella da vedere. La mostra ci sarà tutti i giorni dal 22 gennaio al 12 di febbraio. Quindi gli orari di visita sono martedì e venerdì dalle 15 alle 19, sabato e domenica dalle 11 alle 19. Quindi dovete venire. Facendo la sintesi di quello che ha detto Francesca, per quelli che non parlano in inglese, sostanzialmente c'è una selezione di 52 foto di oltre 300 realizzate a partire dall'inizio, quindi sostanzialmente dal 2014 al 2022, e quindi vi aspettiamo tutti la settimana prossima a partire da domenica all'inaugurazione. Francesca, se tu vuoi condividere qualcosa, ti do la...
Sì.
Così. Vai.
Sì, allora, there is some pictures. Allora, vediamo, let's see if I go on with English. Maybe.
Yes.
Allora, I share my screen.
Now, if you want, like, there is in the public one friend that is a Russian viewer, that is our best subscriber, and is saying, I couldn't believe till the last day that the war was going to happen, and I paid a little attention before 2022. And I have a lot of connection in Russia, and I think that is the main sentiment for the Russian people. Like, they didn't believe that something is going on. It was very far away. Now, no, but before February, yes. Se vuoi...
Yes. Allora, I'm gonna share the screen.
Vai.
Like this. Can you see now the pictures?
No, non è ancora... No, non è fatto. Presenta, condividi schermo.
Allora, one second.
Vai.
Ho fatto... Presenta. Ah, no, non ho scherzato. I didn't click share.
Vai. Dai,
okay.
Poi perfetto. So
I'm gonna go through a little bit of the pictures, like in Kiev. So this was during the protests in Kiev of the Euromaidan movement that wanted to be closer to Europe, and it was against the government who decided to of Yanukovych, who wanted to be closer to Russia. So in the square, you had all sorts of people, really, like young people, women, old people, Nazi, people with the Nazi sign. But this was just one. But I had to take picture of him anyway. Yes, there were some people that had some strange tastes, but not only that. You also really like a thing that I really noticed in Kiev is that really like there were like just normal people, like very normal people of every kind, giving me tea, biscuits. They were all very kind. They were protesting, of course, and the more the clashes between the police and the protesters grew, of course, the violence grew also. So it was not a playground for sure, but the people in the square were not all of them like waving fucking Nazi flags, like some other events that we might see. For example, in Italy, for example, I went to the commemoration of the death of Mussolini. I mean, yes, that was really, really, really bad, but nothing like that at all in Kiev. Of course, there were some cases, but it was not the main thing. So then we went to the 20th of February, where the violence escalated even more and more, and the barricades were set on fire, and there was a lot of smoke, as you can see. And then the same, that was the same day, then the snipers that were placed where there is a Ukrainian hotel up there. There were snipers. They shot on the people in the square, and there was about 100 people that were killed. So, and after that, there were many funerals, but the Euromaidan movement was dispersed. There was no people in the square anymore, and they dismantled the barricades that were in Independence Square. And so that's when I went to Crimea, because this thing was happening. So as you can see, like you have the Russian tanks, but also you have the Ukrainian flags. Then people with the Russian flag, and again you have some people that say, if I'm not wrong, there it says no to the war in Crimea. If I'm not wrong, please correct me if I'm wrong. But so yeah, and then again there was people that were cheering after the referendum, and people that were not cheering that much. So I tried to, by being there, just showing what I could see. There was so much that I could not see, but that's the difficulties of working in some areas sometimes. And this is Sloviansk. It's the 22nd of April. This is in Donbass. This was one of the first funerals at the start of the movements of the separatists. Again, like me, I tried to take photos that portray people mostly in their kind of normal life. I never liked to go to the front lines specifically to get pictures of firing or cannons firing or stuff like that. It's just a personal. I can relate much better to people in their normal environments. But yeah, so for example, this is a picture of a guy with a Russian flag throwing away a Ukrainian flag. It was the moment where the members of the separatist movements, or the supporter of the separatist movements, were taking over the governmental buildings in Donetsk. So you have these scenes, like this perfectly normal woman just like throwing rocks at the building. And then the Ukrainian army, just in the 2nd of May, it's when they started to move into Donbass. And that's when Putin said, okay, if there's going to be an escalation, with the army, it's going to be very bad. If they're going to come and crush us, it's going to be very bad. And that's what happened, because that was the 2nd of May. But then moving on, the war started, really. This is for example, a demonstration of the pro-separatist movement with the Donetsk Republic flag there. Again, they were attacking the government buildings during demonstrations. Again, there were like some clashes. This is Mariupol. This happened in Mariupol, which now it's in. It's
Rude.
like you take a packet of crisps and you crash it, and there's nothing. So, yeah. This is the very super democratic representative of the Donetsk People Republic holding a press conference. This is a moment that's very particular because this is the referendum held by the separatists to say, do you want or do you want not to create a separate republic from Ukraine and become independent? So this referendum was going on. Referendum in this school behind. The people were going inside, voting and everything. At some point that day, a van arrived, 2 vans arrived on the scene, and there were people on it. And it turns out, and they entered the place, the school, the building. They kicked everybody out, and then they started to shoot, and 3 people were killed. Among them, one of these men laying there. And turns out that those people were private sector people. So basically, in this case, you have the private sector people coming to disrupt a referendum held by the separatists. So you have various situations, rightful or not, but still, that's what happened. So then you started to have tanks, because at the beginning, of course, the weapons were not that many, and the level of weapons was different. And but then they increased, and they had tanks too, with the Donetsk People Republic flag on it. This is the Azov Battalion headquarters in Kiev. It's when I went to them for an interview. This is during a prisoner exchange in Donetsk. This is people that lived in anti-air bomb shelters back in 2014. So the point of the exhibition is also to say, if I leave if I remove the caption from this photo, you might think it's a photo that I took in 2022, because the situation is the same. People were living in bomb shelters back in 2014, especially those living on the contact line. So, and this is, for example, the Cossacks. the Cossacks that were fighting alongside the Donetsk People Republic, the Lugansk People Republic. So I had the chance to go around in the areas that now are occupied. This is during a concert that was held by in people in Donetsk, the presence of the prime minister of the Donetsk People Republic, Zarchenko, and then he was killed because he was they put a bomb in his bar, the place where he used to go and have his favorite bar. And so 2 of they were both killed. Of the 3 prime ministers of the Donetsk People Republic, 2 were killed. They didn't die in action; they were killed with a bomb. So
I have a question for you. Okay,
yeah.
so it's like in your feeling. Okay.
Yes.
Ti leggo per te. In your feeling, how much did people really care whether the Ukraine will be allied with Europe or Russia, or opposed to just wanting to live better lives?
No, I think that the Ukrainians, especially the ones in the West, were really felt closer to the values, closer to Europe in many various ways. But it's also true that the people in the east and also in Crimea feel probably closer to the country Russia and everything that it represents. Having said that, after 2022 and the war that is going on now, it's very hard to find somebody that is in peace with the idea of being part of Russia because of what's going on, because of the kind of bombs that they throw on civilians, like in Dnipro 2 days ago. You cannot go over that. So even though there is some level of control over what is anything that is related to Russia, because it's a war, so Russia is the enemy now in Ukraine, so whatever that is connected to it, of course, it's repressed and removed. But anyway, considering what's going on, it's very, very hard for Ukrainians to say, okay, I might feel, even in Odessa, which has always been close to Russia, it's difficult to find people that are not angry. Let's put it that way. And this, I think, maybe this anger will be carried on through years, in the next years also, and it will be the next big problem once the bombing, the indiscriminate bombing stops.
Let me
Because
show
I
you
think we can all agree that what happened again even 2 days ago, and leaving alone what happened today in
Kiev.
Kiev, but what happened in Dnipro 2 days ago. I mean, today in Kiev, the helicopter landed and killed one child, but 2 days ago in Dnipro, that was, I think everybody can agree that that's just unbelievable. There
Yeah,
is
but
still people, there is still
today,
children under the rubbles. We have to remember that. It's just crazy. So
today the interesting thing is that it was like the Minister of Interior Affairs, and it's very difficult. I think that one helicopter crash in the center with the Secretary of State, Minister of Interior Affairs, and for sabotage or for technical problems. So, but let's see. I wanted to show you one thing that is very interesting. All the people that are reading the channel knows about it. It's the results of the referendum of 1991. I still repeat, it's an historical data that it's interesting to understand also the actual situation. So the question was very simple. It was like, do you agree, like, for the independence of the Ukraine from the Soviet Union? And it's this one. Do you confirm the act of proclamation of independence of Ukraine? Yes or no? And so you can see that the only part that was contended was Crimea. But because technically, and I didn't go to Crimea. I was in Ukraine many times, also Russia many times. But as you know, it's impossible to go to Crimea now by ground, but from 2014, and it was possible only through Russia. So it was very difficult to go. So I didn't go. And but the Crimea was the only oblast of Ukraine that was, we can see also in this one, with 42% against independence. That was not the majority. And also Sevastopol was 39%, and yes was 57, 54, and in Donbass was everywhere over 80%. So for the people that is like proclaiming that was a super pro-Russian community, it's an historical fake. For sure, it's the Russian language community. As I have a lot of Ukrainian friends that speak all the Russian, and they're not pro-Russian. So it's the big mistake that the Westerners said that the people who speak Russian, it's pro-Russian. No, it's on the language. So and for sure there is a huge community in Crimea that is pro-Russian. because historically the community it's more Russian than Ukrainian. Just to make a last message, remember to everybody, for the foreign people that is living next to Brescia, on Sunday it will be the inauguration of the expo of Francesca Volpi at Mocha at 11 a.m. We will be there, so please come. I will put this video in all the Telegram group of the Expo in Brescia and Bergamo. Per gli italiani che hanno seguito questo video, vi aspettiamo tutti all'inaugurazione di domenica alle 11 al Mocha, che ripeto è in centro Brescia, comodissimo da arrivare in via Moretto. Per chi non lo sa è vicino a Birbes, tanto sapete tutti dove c'è Birbes, quindi arrivate da Birbes, andate dritti, c'è il cinema Moretto, di fronte c'è l'ingresso e sostanzialmente la mostra inizia con l'inaugurazione alle 11 e poi sarà presente fino al 22 gennaio.
Quindi 12 febbraio.
Scusami,
No,
dal 22 gennaio.
Però sì, è lì, per 3 settimane è lì.
Febbraio. E gli orari li trovate qua e niente, quindi vi aspettiamo tutti domenica, quindi niente, ringrazio Francesca per il suo tempo che mi ha dedicato e ci ha dedicato, che è super presa dalla realizzazione della mostra. For the English speaker, I'm thanking so much Francesca, because she's completely messed up for the making of the expo, so she dedicated half an hour to us, and I'm very glad of. So remember, come to the expo, and it will be very interesting because, as you saw, the pictures are very particular, are not like on the front line as we say, but mainly, let's say, regular life during a conflict. So it's the interesting part of the expo. So come on Sunday, and if you have any question for Francesca after this video, please put in the comments and I will forward to her. So thank you so much. Grazie a tutti. Stai un secondo che chiudo. Ciao, grazie mille, buona serata. Ci vediamo domenica. Ciao.
Ciao.